You are not confused. You have simply learned to ignore the one voice within you that never lies. Every time you don't know what to do, it's because you chose to listen to fear instead of the soul. How to listen to your soul and know exactly what to do when you wake up feeling stuck, when you overthink, when you ask for signs and, despite everything, still get it wrong. When you feel like you decide everything with your mind and then pay the price in your body, in your heart, and in your life. Because the real pain is not the lack of choices, but being disconnected from the only voice within you that never lies. You have learned to live by defending yourself, explaining yourself, justifying yourself, and this has distanced you from your soul. And the more you try to control, the more confusion increases. The problem is not that life doesn't respond, it's that you don't listen. The false belief you were taught is that listening to the soul brings immediate comfort. But Rumi and Sufism have always been clear. Listening to the soul begins with discomfort because it dismantles the false self you use to survive. The soul does not shout, does not argue, does not chase you. It waits. And while you ask the world for advice, it remains silent within, steady, simple, clear. The shock is this. If you don't know what to do, it's not because the path doesn't exist, but because you have learned to ignore the only direction that never fails. And if this message has reached you, it's because you are tired of getting it wrong while trying to do it right. Tired of living in doubt, tired of asking for permission to exist. Here you will discover the simple and real mechanism Rumi points to. When the soul leads, life organizes itself. When the ego decides, everything becomes effort. You will understand how to recognize the difference between the voice of the soul and the noise of fear, why the soul always speaks softly and why it never negotiates with urgency, and how to apply all of this to the small and big decisions of your day, not as theory, but as a living practice, just as the Sufi masters have always taught. Have you ever found yourself in a simple, ordinary situation, choosing whether to stay or leave, to speak or remain silent, to accept or refuse, and something within you knew exactly what to do, but you ignored it and later regretted it? It wasn't bad luck, it was an inner disobedience. Rumi did not teach you to seek answers outside. He pointed to inner listening, the awakened heart, surrender to what is true. The soul always points to the path that leads you out of falsehood, even when it hurts, even when it costs, while the ego always chooses what protects image, comfort, and the fear of loss. The revelation that almost no one accepts is that listening to the soul does not lead you where you want, but where you need to go. And that is why so many people run from this listening. If you want to know exactly what to do in every situation, you don't need more techniques. You need to stop running from the silence where the soul speaks. And when you learn to recognize this voice, life begins to respond effortlessly. Decisions become simple, conflicts lose their force, and the path reveals itself step by step as Rumi described in Sufi stories, not as a pre-drawn map, but as a living presence that guides every step. So tell me, in which area of your life are you ignoring this voice, even though you know it's right? What are you trying to control that your soul has already tried to show you how to let go of? And if you truly listen today, what would change immediately? Listening to the soul is not something distant, mystical, or reserved for a few chosen ones. It is something you have already done many times without realizing it. Every time you felt a tightening in your chest before a bad choice, every time something inside you warned you and you ignored it, the soul always warns before, never after. Suffering arises when you step past that warning. Rumi insisted on this point, emphasizing that the human problem is not a lack of direction, but constant distraction. You have grown used to living in a rush, deciding quickly, justifying everything with logic, while the soul operates at a different rhythm. It is not in a hurry, it does not compete, it does not try to prove anything, and that is precisely why you don't trust it. You have learned to trust noise, not silence. You have learned to call anxiety intuition and fear prudence. Listening to the soul requires stopping, and stopping today feels scarier than making mistakes. Every time you ask, "What should I do now?" the soul has already answered before the question even arises. The answer comes as a feeling, as a simple clarity, as a yes or a no without long explanations. But you have been trained to doubt what is simple. Rumi spoke of simplicity as a sign of truth, while the ego needs complicated stories to sustain itself. You feel confused because you try to listen to the soul with your mind, and the mind wants proof, guarantees, and control. The soul doesn't work that way. It does not explain the entire path. It only shows the next step. And when you demand more, you move away from it. Knowing exactly what to do does not mean knowing everything, but trusting the next movement. There is an invisible point in every decision where the soul speaks, and the ego responds over it. This point is quick, almost imperceptible, and that is why you miss it. The ego speaks loudly, using words, arguments, fears, and memories of the past. The soul speaks before all that, in an instant of pure clarity. Rumi emphasized that the awakened heart recognizes this instant, while the closed heart tramples over it. When you make mistakes, it's not because you didn't know, but because you chose to negotiate with fear. The soul never negotiates. It points, and then it falls silent. If you learn to respect this silence, you begin to live with less effort and fewer regrets. You think listening to the soul concerns only big decisions, but in reality, it begins with the small ones. It begins with saying no when something inside you withdraws, with leaving when something inside you closes, with staying when something inside you opens. Sufism has always taught that the path reveals itself in the everyday, not in rare exceptional moments. The soul manifests in the way you react, in the way you choose, in the weight or lightness you feel after each step. If a decision drains you, it was not the soul that guided it. If a decision scares you but leaves you whole, it was. You were taught to look for signs outside, but Rumi pointed inward, not because the world does not speak, but because you do not listen. The world only reflects what you have already decided within. When you ignore the soul, life shouts. When you listen to it, life cooperates. Knowing exactly what to do does not mean controlling life, but aligning with it. It means stopping the fight against your inner flow. The soul does not create conflict. The ego does. Where there is a lot of justification, there is little alignment. Where there is simplicity, there is truth. The fear you feel at the idea of listening to the soul is the fear of losing identity, because the soul does not maintain characters. It does not support false relationships, empty paths, or promises that pull you away from yourself. Rumi spoke of dying before death, the fall of the false self. Listening to the soul means allowing something within you to die so that something real can live. And it is difficult because you are attached to what you know, even when it hurts. The soul always asks for truth, never false comfort. And when you begin to obey it, life begins to reorganize itself. Every time you ignore the soul, something in you tightens. Every time you listen to it, something in you relaxes. This is the simplest and truest criterion. The ego contracts, the soul expands. The ego applies pressure, the soul supports. The ego promises control, the soul offers clarity. Rumi did not teach obscure techniques to control life. He taught presence to listen, and this presence is not effort. It is surrender. When you stop forcing answers, they appear. You don't need to change everything at once. You need to stop betraying yourself. The soul does not demand perfection. It demands honesty. It does not ask for heroic courage, but for small acts of truth. Knowing exactly what to do means learning to recognize when you are moving away from yourself. Then pain appears not as punishment, but as a warning. If you learn to read that warning, you no longer need to suffer so much. Life begins to teach with subtlety, not through shocks. Sufism has always spoken of the path as a dance between listening and action. Listening without acting becomes illusion. Acting without listening becomes chaos. When you unite both, something aligns. Rumi spoke of a love that guides, not a rule that oppresses. That is how the soul guides. It does not command, it invites. It does not force, it indicates. It does not threaten, it calls. And you always know it is the soul because there is no deep confusion, only the resistance of the ego. You have been conditioned to believe that clarity comes after thinking a lot, but the clarity of the soul comes before. Thought comes afterward, to justify. When you reverse this order, everything becomes complicated. Knowing exactly what to do means restoring this order. First listen, then think. First feel, then explain. Rumi did not separate spiritual life from practical life. For him, listening to the soul meant living rightly in the world, not escaping it. Every situation in your life is an invitation to this listening. A conflict, a choice, a loss, a beginning. The soul always points to what brings you closer to yourself. Even when it looks like a loss, it is an inner gain. Even when it looks like a mistake, it is a deep correction. If you learn to trust this, anxiety decreases because you stop trying to control outcomes and begin to obey truth. The ego asks, what if it goes wrong? The soul asks, is it true? That is the difference. The ego lives in the future and the past. The soul lives in the present. Rumi pointed to the present as the only place where God is heard. When you leave the present, you leave listening. Returning is simple, but not easy, because it requires letting go of mental stories. You feel tired not because you live too much, but because you decide against yourself. Deep exhaustion comes from the constant betrayal of the self. When you begin to listen to the soul, something in you rests, even while you are in motion. Life may remain demanding, but you no longer lose yourself in it. This is the true promise of Sufism, not a perfect life, but an aligned life. Knowing exactly what to do does not mean never making mistakes, but making fewer against yourself. It means learning quickly, feeling before collapse. Rumi spoke of awakening while living, not after destroying everything. The soul always tries to awaken you first. If you listen, the path softens. You don't need more content. You need more inner silence, not more advice, but more honesty. The soul does not reveal itself to those who want quick answers, but to those willing to hear what they do not want. This is the point that separates those who live in confusion from those who live guided. When you begin to listen to the soul, you notice that many questions fall away on their own, because the question was born from confusion, not truth. Truth is simple, and the simple is frightening because it dismantles the ego. Rumi spoke of simplicity as a return to the essential. Little by little, you begin to perceive patterns. When you ignore the soul, you repeat cycles. When you listen to it, something breaks. Life changes not through external effort, but through inner alignment. This is what it means to know exactly what to do, even without guarantees. The soul does not promise success, it promises truth. And truth, when lived, organizes everything around it. This is Rumi's authority, not as a distant philosopher, but as someone who pointed to a forgotten evidence. Listening to the soul is remembering what you have always known. And what is blocking you today is not a lack of answers, but the fear of obeying? What if the clarity you are searching for has already appeared many times, and you called it madness, weak intuition, or mere emotion? And what if the next decision you make, no matter how small, is the true beginning of this listening? You spend your whole life believing the problem is not knowing how to choose, when the real problem is choosing against what you feel in silence. The soul never leaves you lost. It makes you restless when you move away from it. This discomfort is the first warning. It has always been. Rumi spoke of this by showing that the heart knows before the mind builds stories. You feel the weight when you force a decision. You feel the lightness when you accept the truth. But you have been taught to ignore these simple signals. Listening to the soul means relearning to trust what is evident within you. Knowing exactly what to do begins when you stop violating yourself inwardly. It is not a lack of courage, but an excess of accumulated fear. The soul calls, the ego replies, and you get lost in this inner dialogue that never ends. Confusion does not come from life, but from your resistance. Every time you say, "I don't know what to do," there is something within you that does know, but you do not want to pay the emotional price of that choice. The soul does not choose what preserves image. It chooses what preserves truth. Rumi insisted that authentic love begins when you stop lying to yourself. Lying to yourself means ignoring the soul. Every time you ignore it, the noise increases. The mind becomes more agitated, the body more tired, life heavier. Not because you acted wrongly on the outside, but because you moved away inwardly. Knowing what to do means aligning, not always succeeding.